The first thing I did was to turn off the camera in the office, where I was going to spend a lot of time. Since I didn't have to worry about anyone in the house eavesdropping on my speakers, I turned the sound up loud enough that I could clearly make out every word spoken. I skipped over irrelevant passages. I wanted to see and understand how she had seduced me and hear everything they had said about me when he had conquered her. What I learned was amazing. I never knew my wife was a gold digger. She kept giggling at his accent and blushing at his remarks. He then began showering her with gifts of jewelry and clothing, none of which she showed me. Her defenses, if any, quickly crumbled when she freely gave him what I had previously believed she shared only with me. I was startled by my reaction. I expected anger and rage, but it was creepy watching him and her and my identical twin. The only difference was his voice. Tuesday was the first time I saw them spending time together, hugging tightly. Now I'm sure he was the object of her desire as she pretended my body belonged to him. On Wednesday, he took Chelsea to his spare bedroom and entertained her for several hours. It became clear to me that this was the reason she avoided making eye contact with me on Wednesday. She felt guilty for betraying me. On Thursday and Friday, while I was at work, Pierre was also working for Chelsea. There was no way I wanted to get into a close relationship with Chelsea again, and as much as I hated the expected consequences for the kids, I couldn't stay married to her either. Divorce was assured. He could crush me with all his wealth, so I had to be very careful what I did. After listening to their conversation, I was finally convinced of my determination. Pierre believed that money could buy everything, including me. On Wednesday afternoon, after a lengthy entertainment, I heard them discussing me. How do you think we should tell Paul about our newfound love? No, I don't think he should find out about us at all, my sweet pet. He is my only blood relative, and I don't want to cause him any mental discomfort. Can you live to remain married to him, and yet be with me every chance you get when we can find time for ourselves and our happiness together? I suppose I could, Pierre, but my heart belongs to you now. You've swept me off my feet, and I'm all yours. I still love him. Some part of me will always love him. But you, as the old song goes, you light up my life. You fascinate me in ways Paul will never understand. He may be your identical twin, but he's not half the man you are, Pierre. Thank you, my beloved, for those words, Madame Cherie. But I feel a little guilty for taking your love away from my brother. I must make amends to him for that loss, whether he realizes it or not. What do you mean, Pierre? What are you going to do? Every man loves sports cars. I'm going to give him the finest French sports car I can find on short notice. And this house. Do I understand correctly that you have only recently made the purchase? Yes, that's right. A little over a month ago. We still have boxes we haven't unpacked yet. That's okay, my pet. Yes, it will be good compensation for my intrusion on his wife. I'll pay off your mortgage in full and gift him that amount and the sports car tomorrow. It will throw him off balance and further cement me in his heart. Wow, you'd do that for us. For him, my pet, my gifts to you are much more intimate, he grinned. Well, that explained the car and mortgage situation. He felt guilty, but still conspired with Chelsea to continue their affair behind my back. I guess that makes Chelsea one of the highest-paid whores in history. She may be worth $1,375,000 to him, but to me, she's nothing more than a worthless whore. I caught another conversation from the doorbell camera. They were talking, swaying languidly on the porch, holding hands. Sorry, my sweet pet, but I have to go back to France for the weekend. Business, you know. Do you think you could talk Paul into taking you with him to visit me there at my house for the next week or two? He and I could continue to grow closer, and you and I could take each other to new and wonderful heights. To France? With you? How marvelous. I've never been there, but I've always wanted to visit Paris. I'm sure the two of us can talk him into going. He has unused vacation time. We've been saving it up for a family vacation, but he could use it for this. Great. I have another thought. What if I arrange for the first 3 days to be just the two of us? Then he'll join us and spend a lot of time with me. I have no idea how that could be arranged, Pierre, but I would be very happy if you could make it happen. You are such an intriguing man. Yes, I am perfectly willing to do it. Leave the details to me. I think I can arrange for him to stay late at work and then join us. So Pierre had arranged for me to have to work on Monday? He must have somehow arranged Carl Reed and Francine Walsh's FMLA leave, which forced Greg to make me work Monday and delay my flight until Tuesday morning. Also, he could have more time to have fun with Chelsea. I guess he wants all his money from her. Well, I guess he can have her forever. Wait a minute. How could he pull off a plan like that? He was at my house all day Thursday and Friday. He must have asked someone to cook for him. And who does all his cooking? His girlfriend on Friday. Helena Moreno, a wolf in sheep's clothing. Now the puzzle is fully formed. Even as Pierre expresses his boundless love for me, his new twin brother, his predilection for seducing married women, overrides his concern for family loyalty. He simply assumed I could be appeased by his generosity if I ever learned of his betrayal. He would soon realize how wrong he was about me. It was 2:30 in the afternoon when my doorbell rang. Since I was still sitting at my computer, I pulled up the doorbell camera and saw Helena standing there. She was dressed to impress, and not only to impress, but to seduce. She could have been Cleopatra in the flesh, but she would never have attracted my interest. Instead of inviting her inside, I went outside and met her on the porch. "Hi, Helena. I thought you realized I'd be watching the kids until Monday. I apologize if that wasn't entirely clear." "Hi, Paul." She squeezed my hand in hers, smiling from ear to ear. "It's so good to see you again. May I come in?" "The kids aren't here right now, so you came all this way for nothing." "Oh, I wouldn't say my presence here is in vain, Paul. There's something I want to show you. Would you mind inviting me inside?" "Why not show it to me right here on the porch, Helena?" "Oh, I can't do that," she reasoned. "It wouldn't be right." "Well, I don't think it's appropriate for me to be alone in my house when you're dressed the way you are now, so if that's all, you can go." "What? I don't understand. I thought we had a connection, Paul. Please let me inside and I'll show you what I mean." "So this must be the demonstration moment when you said you'd do anything or anyone for Pierre. Is that so, Helena?" "I don't know what you're talking about, Paul." "Oh no? Then why don't I clarify it for you? Pierre's guard came by yesterday and activated my security system, so it's working now. Roland relayed this information to Pierre. How am I doing?" She only gave me a stoic look. "Pierre knows I sent you away before Monday and he's not happy with you. Why? I suppose he wants you to seduce me, and he wants high-definition proof of your liaisons with me. And here you stand before me dressed as a daring seductress. What do you think, Miss Moreno?" A tear streamed from one eye, and she struggled to keep her composure. She pulled my hand and said, "Please take a walk with me, Paul. I promise you won't be harmed in any way." Her obvious sincerity won me over. I locked the front door and we walked down the street. She made a few clicks on her cell phone and slipped it into her purse. "Paul," she began, "I owe you an apology, and that's why I'm here. At the same time, I have a dilemma in front of me that could lead to the end of my career, so it's not an easy choice for me to make." "What are you talking about, Helena?" Suddenly, an Uber pulled up next to us. "Great, we have a ride. Let's go somewhere where we can talk privately," she suggested. She asked to take us to a local mall. We walked to the common area where there was a large food court. We each ordered a confection of our choice, and while we were snacking, she began. "Your intuition is unmistakable, Paul. You surprised me this afternoon. I didn't expect you to be so perceptive, but I assume there are things you don't know, and my goal is to help you fill in some of the gaps." It didn't escape me that everyone who passed us couldn't take their eyes off the rapturous beauty sitting across from me. I felt uneasy myself. "Helena, perhaps I know more than you think, but I won't reveal my hand to you right now. You work for my brother, and you've made it clear that you're loyal to him first and foremost. I have no idea what you hope to accomplish today. You were right about everything. I should have stayed with you for the weekend, helped with the kids, and worked on getting you between my legs. Pierre was informed that your security system was already in place. He has seduced your wife and instructed me to do my best to seduce you in your home, so they can use our liaison as evidence against any reprisals. He believes that if you are unfaithful to Chelsea with me, how can you complain about her infidelity with him? I already know the details of Chelsea's seduction and betrayal. You can tell your boss that I'm an ignorant idiot for rejecting your advances. I assume Chelsea knows about him offering me a hall pass?" Helena nodded in confirmation. "So she's in on his betrayal as well. That's what I assumed. Why are you telling me all this, Helena? Won't your exposure today cost you your job?" "That's exactly why I suggested it might be the end of my career for me. For one thing, Pierre doesn't know I'm telling you all this. When he watches the video from your porch later, he'll assume that your defiance of my temptations prompted me to take you somewhere where I could get you to come to your senses and eventually submit to my charms and wiles. He might suppose that afterward we would return to your house, where the action would be gloriously preserved in a cloud. And yet you are unexpectedly frank and honest with me. Why do you do it if it might cost you your career? I confess I have performed this service many times on Pierre's behalf for the unsuspecting husbands of his many female conquerors. In each case, however, the husbands had either already cheated themselves but not been caught, or they treated their wives as property to be used and discarded at will. In each of these cases, I felt that I was helping to free the woman from her prison without bars. But your case is markedly different. You and Chelsea had a happy marriage and 3 young children who depended on both of you. After Pierre's research, we're pretty sure you've never cheated and probably won't. The only thing Chelsea would be free of through Pierre's intervention would be her wedding vows and commitment to her family. I strongly disagreed with Pierre's decision to seduce her, but perhaps it only made her more desirable in his eyes. If he could conquer a pure specimen like your wife, he would have kept his style, believing that he was God's gift to all women, not just impure specimens. From my point of view, Helena, he used his wealth, status, and French accent to turn her head. It didn't hurt that he's my identical twin either. What he did was disgusting, single-handedly destroying my happy family just because he can. Does he seriously expect me to accept that state of affairs? He wanted you to never know the truth, to assuage his conscience, something I never noticed about him before. He gave you a car and a mortgage. In his mind, he is only borrowing it for a short time and then intends to return it to you intact. He ignorantly assumes that you Americans have the same carefree attitude toward sex and openness with which Chelsea pursues her interests toward him as Europeans do, she added. Nothing could be further from the truth. I fully intend to divorce her, and then she can pursue her dreams wherever they take her. But how can you speak of it, Paul, with nothing but suspicion? With a man like Pierre Dumont, you need hard evidence. Obviously, Pierre didn't know that my security system was already up and running on the first day. The lack of a security key only prevented access to it, but the database had been accumulating since day 1. I have clear, unedited, high-definition video of almost everything he said and did to Chelsea. Helena covered her mouth with her hand in shock and inhaled sharply. Are you sure? No one, I mean no one, has ever collected concrete evidence of his adventures. That evidence could make you a very dangerous person to Pierre. Does he know you have them? Not yet, no. I've been going over them all day today. I've just put them all together. I haven't contacted a lawyer yet, but I'm definitely going to divorce Chelsea. Oh, no. Pierre definitely doesn't want you to divorce. He views his tryst with her as nothing more than a bump in the road of your marriage, which he has more than compensated you for. Once he is done with her, he will cast her aside for the next conquest. He wants you to stay in the marriage and get to the point where one day you can joke about it. After all, you are his only blood relative, his only brother. He believes in the adage, share and share alike. I don't have a brother anymore. I have a sister whom I love very much, but no brother. He is dead to me from now and forever. My heart will never be open to him again. Are you serious, Paul? This will kill him. I'm sure of it. I knew his womanizing would ruin him one day. Will it kill him? Not likely. Or he wouldn't have ruined my wife, my family, and my life. I'm no more to him than a gnat on a windshield. That's not true, Paul. You don't know him like I do. I've never seen him so interested in anyone but himself until you came along. He'll be devastated. I'm sure I'll still have to have regular contact with Chelsea until the kids are adults, since we'll be sharing custody. But I will turn my back on Pierre and anything to do with him, except for trying to wreak havoc in his life like he's already done in mine. But what can you do to him? To him, you're an ant and he's a giant. He'll step on you and crush you if you try to chase him. He has limitless resources. Don't worry about me, Helena. I can handle myself. But if he finds out you helped me in any way, he might come after you too. As you said, it could end your career with his company. What would you do if that happened? Like you, Paul, I'm at a crossroads. If you file for divorce, which you seem intent on doing, Pierre will pressure you to change your mind. If you publicize the matter and embarrass him, he may write you off as his brother and pounce on you with his considerable resources. I have seen him destroy those who dared to oppose him. Countless wounds have been inflicted in his footsteps, but nothing points to him. I have not succeeded in seducing you as he wished. He may try to get me to lie and say that you and I had intimacy while your wife was out of the country, my word against yours muddying the waters, and he will still win. Everyone I've done that to has deserved it. You don't? Your integrity, character, and willpower are in great short supply these days. You're a rare man, Paul Blaylock, and I'm not just saying that. I don't want anything to happen to you. I'm curious about something, Helena, and if you don't want to divulge the details, I understand. What is it, Paul? I've already revealed most of what I know. Last Thursday, when we were all in the limo and the three of you were chatting freely in French, what was the nature of that conversation? Helena wrinkled her nose at the thought of having to answer my question. I didn't want to make Pierre look worse, so I didn't bother telling you about it. But since you asked, he's been candid about how he had fun with your wife, how she possessed him in your own home, how his unsuspecting twin became a cuckold. That's why Gerald looked at you condescendingly. I objected to Pierre's disgusting treatment of his own flesh and blood. He brushed me off, saying that you more than compensated for it with your gifts and that I should keep quiet about it in your presence. I'm sorry, Paul, but it's true. Taking other people's wives is a path to power for him. I have to know, Helena. It's your decision, but from now on you must take one side or the other. Look me in the eye and tell me. Are you still with Pierre and therefore my enemy? Or are you my friend, perhaps the only one I have? She looked straight into my eyes for a long time, and I saw something in them that I hadn't noticed before. Compassion? Determination? I couldn't tell. I have long been dissatisfied with Pierre. He has treated me fairly and paid me very well, but I feel as if I'm slowly selling my soul piecemeal. I haven't yet reached the amount I wanted to retire with, but it's getting close. If I want to separate from him, you and I will have to coordinate our time and work together, because if he suspects me of defecting to your camp, he will stop at nothing to get his way. But if we both lead them around by the nose a bit, it will give us both some time to make transitional arrangements for the future. I don't know why, but I believe you, Helena. I know this is as much a life-changing decision for you as it is for me. I have several things I'd like to accomplish over the next week, and I'll need your help to dispel their suspicions that I know what's going on. It goes without saying that we can't talk in or near my house because it's bugged. Why don't we buy a couple of prepaid cell phones here at the mall and use them to communicate? If you need to talk to me and I'm home, have him call once and hang up. I'll go out in the backyard where I can talk freely. That will help us coordinate our efforts. Sounds good, Paul. And I have a couple ideas on how to strengthen the relationship with Pierre and your wife so we both have the time we need. Will you be working tomorrow at your therapist job? Yes, unfortunately. I'm very sorry, Paul. I am responsible for this. Pierre instructed me to arrange for 2 therapists to come out to work due to unforeseen sudden circumstances, and I did as commanded. I only wish I had approached you sooner. Even if you had come, Chelsea apparently has a built-in gold digger instinct and would have succumbed to it anyway. I take it you're not planning to go to France now to join them? Absolutely not. There's no way in hell I'm going there. Do you plan to work for the rest of the week, or will you take a vacation? I need to take the rest of the week off to prepare for our separation and divorce. Are you close with your boss? At New Directions, yes. Greg Dixon is not only the managing partner but also a good friend. Why? If you do plan to take a vacation next week, maybe your wife or Pierre will call there to check on you if you tell them you're still working. Will Greg cover for you and tell you that you're working if either of them call? I'm sure they will. That's a great suggestion, Helena. I like the way you think. Helena's eyes lit up the space between us as she smiled. You can be sure Pierre will want a detailed report from me on how far I've gotten with you today. He wants me to get you to bed as soon as possible. How about we have a scene at your house where I forcefully approach you and you convincingly deny me in front of the cameras? Pierre will probably watch the videotape and see how brazenly I pounce on you, while you remain chaste and say something noble about keeping your wedding vows. This will serve 2 purposes. It will give us the time we need to play out a new scene each day, and at the same time, it will be a serious slap in the face for him and Chelsea when they see an honest and honorable man display qualities he will never possess. Now I can see why Pierre has clung to you. You're good, Helena, damn good. Later that night at my house, Helena flirted with me for over an hour. When she was about to kiss me, I turned to face her and she kissed me on the cheek. I thanked her for the offer and proceeded to tell her how beautiful she was and that she would make a wonderful wife one day. But I was committed to my wife and my marriage. Before I sent her away, I asked her to come back at 7:30 a.m. to watch the kids while I was at work. She smiled symbolically and said to the camera, "Maybe next time." Shortly after Helena left, Amber, Neil, and Rhonda were delivered completely exhausted. I hugged Anita, thanking her for her help. I didn't have the heart to make them take a bath first, so I quickly put them to bed. To keep myself busy with patients and the extra work caused by the absence of Carl Reed and Francine Walsh, I spent every spare minute I had looking online at vacant apartments suitable for rent for me and the kids. I didn't want to stay in my home for two reasons. First, the betrayal and contamination of my wife in bed was happening there, and second, my nemesis was paying for it. I noted 3 places I wanted to visit in person before deciding. Greg assured me that he would be happy to cover for me, especially in light of the betrayal and divorce I would soon have to face. Greg instructed the office secretary to immediately forward all calls concerning me directly to him without saying a word of personal comment to the caller. Monday evening, when I got home from work, the kids greeted me cheerfully as usual and explained that Aunt Helena had ordered pizza for the 3 of them. Helena then explained that she had a chicken casserole almost ready in the oven. She told me to go take a shower and it would be ready when I got back. I wasn't surprised to see her in this domestic role. I had never pictured her in this setting. When I returned, the table was set and the seated children were patiently waiting for their pizza to be brought to them on plates. Helena was just putting a large portion of chicken casserole on my plate, then on hers. "This is my mom's recipe," she informed me. "I've never seen anyone who tasted it not ask for more." She watched me take the first bite. "It's delicious," I stated. After what Pierre brought, I never would have believed I would enjoy French cuisine. But you've changed my mind, Helena. I was sincere in my praise and Helena really appreciated it. Later that evening, after the children had been bathed and put to bed, Helena read them a bedtime story. They were all mesmerized by her melodious performance. I was impressed too, watching her from the doorway. This was a side of Helena I hadn't expected. Downstairs, we watched TV together, and Helena sat next to me, flirting constantly. With great difficulty, I politely declined her gesture and sent her on her way. Tuesday morning, I pretended to leave for work and left. After feeding the kids breakfast and cleaning up after them, Helena loaded the babies into car seats in Chelsea's car, closed the door behind her, and drove off as well. She met me a block away from the house where I was waiting and followed me to a childcare facility that watches the kids during the day for shoppers or busy moms running errands. She dropped them off there, and then Helena and I set out together to find an apartment. She was surprised that I had called her the night before on a prepaid phone to make arrangements, and decided it was better than sitting alone with the baby all day. We visited the 3 places I had mapped out. I asked her for advice before signing a month's lease. After a nice lunch together, I rented a space in a nearby warehouse complex, and as we were leaving, my cell phone rang at 3 p.m., just as I expected. "Your flight just landed here at 9 p.m. Paris time and you weren't on it," the concerned woman informed me. "I'm sorry, Chelsea, I forgot to call you, but I was very upset. My vacation was canceled again. You know how that goes. I'm not sure, but it looks like I won't be able to make it to France at all this week. Maybe next week will be better. We'll see how things work out." I lied. But you're supposed to be free after Monday," she said, puzzled. "I suppose schedules can change at any time, can't they?" suggested I lightly. "But what am I supposed to tell Pierre?" "Anything you want, Chelsea. I have to go now. I have a patient waiting for me. Bye." Not 10 minutes later, Helena's phone rang. I knew I had to be quiet while she answered it. She was carrying on a 12-minute conversation in liquid French. I couldn't understand a thing, but it sounded like they were talking at 60 miles an hour. It was unmistakably Pierre. Finally, the conversation ended. "Wow, he's really upset," she said. "He had Chelsea call you at work and your boss told her that 3 people suddenly got coronavirus and he had to cancel your vacation. He apologized to her, but said he had no other choice. Pierre said that she had beaten him up badly. Pierre asked me to see if I could do something about your work situation tomorrow. I said I would do my best, but I can't miraculously cure the coronavirus. He said he was frustrated with the situation, not me. He watched my haphazard attempts to seduce you on home tapes. He thinks I can do better. Oddly enough, he really wants to bond with you like a brother in his house. After I reminded him that if you all went to France together on Saturday, you'd already be there. He realized that and got upset. I cut in, so they bought the ruse that I have to work this week and he wants you to step up your seduction techniques? Exactly. We can easily skip this week while we both make arrangements for the near future. Back at my house, Helena went into the garage through the back door and turned off the switch that I told her powered the security system. She called out to me and I entered, making sure the cameras were off. We both set to work, loading both cars to the brim with things that belonged to me, mostly tools and equipment that I wanted to keep but had no room for in the new apartment. After the contents of both cars were moved into storage, Helena picked up the children and was home with them before their father returned from work. That way, whenever the kids were on the phone with their mom, if asked, they would honestly say that Dad was driving to and from work as usual. Helena had already reset the circuit breaker of the security system so that it would resume operation. Pierre still didn't expect any recordings to be made during the hours the system was down. After the kids had gone to bed, Helena danced for me. We were both ready for what happened next. I tightened my belt so tight it was impossible to get my pants down. I laughed at her ingenuity and sent her off again, loudly proclaiming to the cameras my love for my wife and the nobility of fidelity. All of this was arranged solely to disappoint Chelsea and Pierre. Wednesday and Thursday allowed me to move all of my belongings that I wanted to keep, either into storage or into the new apartment. Friday, we moved most of the kids' stuff, clothes, toys, small furniture, etc., into the apartment. We left the most frequently used things in the house so they wouldn't ask too many questions until the move was complete. When they asked where their stuff was, we told them that we had tidied up their room, and it looked cleaner now because it was in order. Chelsea called every night around 7. As soon as I saw her name, I would immediately turn the kids on and prevent her from talking to me every time. I'm sure it upset her, but at that point I didn't care. Each night ended with Helena failing to tempt me into infidelity. Thursday night, I pretended to be so upset that I called her a whore and ordered her to never show up at my house again. Of course, this whole scene had been prearranged by Helena. We had moved enough dishes, cooking pots, pans, and utensils to meet our modest needs. Friday morning, I rented a truck to move the major furniture from the nursery to the apartment, including the washer and dryer. I called the power company to shut off the power to the house from the pole, and had the water company shut off the water supply at the street meter. The cable/internet provider disconnected their lines as well. The house was now completely isolated from all utilities. Darren Efland, my brother-in-law, was still a volunteer firefighter. Through him, I arranged with the fire department to have them draw up the necessary permits and be at my house on Friday morning, after the final move was completed. It would be a planned controlled fire that they would monitor to make sure it didn't spread beyond my property if I allowed them to use it as training for recruits. I readily agreed. Chelsea's car and the Venturi Fetish sports car were parked side by side in the enclosed garage with the windows down. I took a 5-liter can of gasoline and doused both cars with a gallon each and spilled the rest all over the house. When Darren nodded to me, I struck a match, which started a flame. I was surprised at how quickly the structure collapsed. The only excitement came when the gas tanks in the cars exploded, but the fire department deftly and neatly contained everything. I had to apply for a demolition and debris removal permit in advance, including proof of no outstanding mortgage. They were shocked at what I was doing, but I explained that I was going to rebuild a better designed, much more energy-efficient house. This seemed to satisfy their climate change policy. In less than 4 hours, the $1,375,000 value of the house was reduced to zero. By 9 p.m., the fire department assured everyone that not a single glowing ember remained. The demolition and debris removal specialists told me they would have the site cleared and leveled by Sunday evening. I had to pay them in advance out of my own pocket. Many may question my sanity and call me crazy for destroying my house and car. I could have sold them and bought a new house and car with the proceeds. In my opinion, that would have amounted to money laundering. To me, it was tainted money and I wanted no part of it. If a stranger came up to me, handed me a 20, and said, "Here, buddy, this money is for your wife's entertainment," I'd roll it up and throw it in his face. To me, it's the same thing. I don't expect everyone to agree with my philosophy. It's just the way I am. I expected the kids to resist accepting a new three-bedroom apartment, but they treated it as a new and fun life adventure. I gave the girls the master bedroom. They were thrilled to have their own bedroom, and Neil got the smallest bedroom, but it was adequate for his needs. I got a medium-sized bedroom, furnished with old furniture but with a new bed. I informed my parents and sister of the move, but kept Chelsea's parents in the dark for now. They would soon find out what was what. Helena was glad that after Friday's move there would be no more scheduled appearances in front of non-existent cameras. Friday and Saturday, I slept on the couch and talked Helena into sleeping in my bedroom. It didn't bother me that she slept there before me. She fought for the couch and lost. The kids liked having her around, and frankly, so did I. Both nights my phone was turned off, so when Chelsea called, the kids couldn't blab about us moving to a new apartment. Of course, they knew nothing about the state of our old house. Friday night, Helena informed me that she had arranged a press conference in Hollywood on Sunday at noon, just as we had planned. We would fly there and back in one day, and for free, using her frequent flyer bonuses. The setting will be similar to the one Pierre had held earlier, but this time I'll be ready to give a speech. My parents agreed to come to the apartment and spend Sunday with their grandchildren. On Saturday, Pierre called Elena and asked why the security system at my house was turned off. She cited ignorance, saying she couldn't ask me that without revealing that Pierre was monitoring their activities, and informed me that her attempt to seduce me had failed once again. Chelsea was next to Pierre and eavesdropped on the conversation. Pierre suggested that maybe Helena wasn't my type, although he'd never seen a man turn her down before. He then asked that perhaps it would be more effective to hire an experienced prostitute or a beautiful escort. Chelsea dismissed the idea, saying that I would never do that with someone I had just met and that Helena just needed more time for her husband to get to know her better before giving in to temptation. She was sure I would come around. Pierre was extremely annoyed at my intransigence. He reminded Helena that even if I did do it to her, it would all be in vain if it wasn't recorded. He asked her to capture the next attempt on her cell phone if it was successful. Helena said she would try. Pierre then changed the subject and moved on to my work schedule. Helena told him that she communicates with Greg, my boss, every day. According to recent reports, he is hoping that at least one or two of the 3 coronavirus patients will return to work on Monday. But there are no guarantees. It won't know for sure until Monday whether one or more of them will show up. She said she would arrange a ticket to France for me as soon as my boss let me go. She lied to Pierre, saying she hated having to babysit my 3 offspring to convince Chelsea and Pierre of her disinterest in staying here. Pierre said he understood her and confirmed that he didn't like kids either and would never want to be around them, including the Blaylocks. Pierre was still chiding herself for not bringing me along initially, but hindsight is always 20/20ths. Pierre transferred a €300,000 bonus to her account for her efforts and promised another €700,000 if she provided a candid video of at least one date with me. She openly told me everything, and I believed her. I really wanted to deal with both of them, but I decided the best way to do it was to make a planned statement to the press. So I avoided Chelsea for the last time. I turned off the phone so the kids wouldn't mention our new apartment. I didn't care if it upset her. Pierre called Helena, who said she didn't know what could be wrong with my phone. He then expressed concern about my coming to France next week. He pressed Helene to do her best to get me to take time off work so I could go to see them. My parents were at the apartment at 7 a.m., ready to take care of the kids in their new domain. Helena and I headed to the airport to fly to California. We arrived in Hollywood 2 hours before the press conference scheduled for noon, so we had time to gather our thoughts and work out the final details. At noon, we noticed that compared to Pierre's press conference, only about a quarter of the entertainment reporters were in attendance. Perhaps noon was not a good time. No matter, if the story hit the net, it wouldn't take long for it to become the property of France, the world community, and everyone else. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paul Blaylock. I am the newly discovered twin brother of French actor Pierre Dumont. I find myself before you today for a very sad reason. Pierre Dumont seduced my wife in my own home. Both he and my wife betrayed me in the most disgusting way. I will divorce my wife, Chelsea Blaylock, as soon as possible, and as a result of their disgusting activities, sever all ties with Pierre Dumont forever. He is dead to me. The audience immediately burst into laughter and one of them sprang forward. You're joking, Paul. It is known that Pierre gave you a very expensive new French sports car and also paid off the mortgage on your house, totaling over $1 million. If he wanted to harm you, why would he do it? I'm glad you asked. In his own words, he said it was compensation for intruding on my marriage to my wife. However, his gifts proved to be short-lived. Short-lived? Inquired the other. What do you mean? On Friday, 2 days ago, my house burned to the ground along with a new sports car I never drove, parked in the garage. Everything was lost. The woman grinned. Even if we believe such a tall tale, your insurance would have covered the loss, so maybe it's not quite the loss you're talking about. I appreciate your thoughts. Let me explain. When Mr. Dumont paid off the mortgage, the homeowner's insurance was no longer required. I canceled it, figuring I had time to look for a better price. Same thing with the car. No insurance. Both properties are a total loss. I didn't get a dime of profit from Mr. Dumont. All of his gifts have gone to waste. I also lost my personal 10% down payment of $100,000 for the house. So the loss was even greater than Mr. Dumont's contribution. After the fire, nothing could be saved. A chuckle was heard among the reporters. This is too ridiculous to believe. Are you trying to get more money out of Mr. Dumont after his very generous act towards you? Is that really what this is all about? I looked sternly at my interlocutor and replied, I don't want a single penny from Mr. Dumont ever. I want him to keep everything he owns as far away from me as possible, and that includes my wife. She will be given to him as my parting gift. If my wish comes true, I will never see either of them again as long as I live. Mr. Dumont has brought nothing but heartache and destruction to my family. Because of his betrayal, my children will grow up in an incomplete family. This box contains memory chips with unedited graphic footage of their nefarious adventures that took place in my house before it burned to the ground. Please take one of them with you before you leave. My wife is now with Mr. Dumont in France, and they have been there together for over a week without me and her 3 children. If you check your own sources, you will see that everything I have said is true. I'm sure there must be pictures of him with a new woman. That woman is Chelsea Blaylock, my wife. I hope she never returns to the United States. If what you say is true, sir, what are you and your children doing about housing now? At the moment, we've moved into an inexpensive 3-bedroom apartment. I'll be a single father soon, and we're adjusting to life without it. There was silence in the group. It finally dawned on me that maybe what I was saying was true. It wouldn't take long for them to get confirmation. Gradually, the stories will be written and circulated on the internet. Eventually, they will cross the pond and reach France, where I hope they will do considerable damage to his reputation and career. In celebrity circles, image is everything. I knew there would be consequences, and they would hit me hard. I was as prepared for it as I could be. After the press conference was over, Helena and I went to a restaurant for lunch. During the meal, Helena finally broke the ice. Paul, even though you strongly suggest that I disappear for a while, I want you to know that this is one of the hardest things I've ever done. I've grown very close to your 3 angels, and I love every minute I have the honor of caring for them. They love you too, Helena. You're more than a babysitter to them. That's why they call you Aunt Helena. Your family. She cried, I'm going to miss more than just the kids, Paul, and put her hand on mine. By the way, I'd like you to sign this document before we part, she asked. What is it? He asked. Basically, it's something that can protect us when Pierre comes after us. Believe me, Paul, as I do you. It is because of his treatment of you that I am severing all ties with him. I signed it without even looking at it. Then I asked her, Are you sure you want to break up with Pierre for good? I'm the only one who will be quoted at the press conference. I'm sure I've been photographed next to you. Not only that, Pierre knows that I was the only one with the connections to organize the press conference. You would never have been able to organize it on your own. And Pierre always says revenge is a dish best served repeatedly. He'll come after both of us. I can hide, but you can't when you have children. Do you trust me enough to tell me where you're going, Helena? Paul, I would trust you with my life. You're the bravest and most honest man I've ever met. There is a former college friend who now works at the French honorary consulate in Georgetown in the Cayman Islands, with whom I am very close. Pierre has never met him or even knows of him. He and I have kept in touch over the years. I will be perfectly safe with him until… Paul, when this is over, believe me, our paths will cross again. I understand. He's a happy man. I wish you didn't have to go, but your safety is the most important thing to me. I have no idea what Pierre might try to do to me for giving him away, but I'm sure he won't take your desertion personally. Here, take my prepaid cell phone with you. I've memorized your number, and if mine is discovered, it will only lead them to you. I don't want anything bad to happen to you, Helena. I got home just in time for dinner. Mom's cooking was just as I remembered it. Even though I felt like a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders, I knew a storm was brewing. I wondered when the news would hit the French social media, but when Chelsea called, she didn't seem to know anything. This time, I decided to finally talk to her. I put her on speakerphone and used my pocket voice recorder to record the conversation from both sides. Hey Chelsea, how are things going in Paris? Oh, Paul, we've been so worried about you. You seem to be avoiding us. Could you tell me why? I know all about it, Chelsea. That's why. What are you even talking about? What do you think you know, Paul? Do you really want me to say those words, Chelsea? Yes, Paul. What's going on? Okay, you asked, so I'll tell you. I know you were having fun with my asshole twin brother before you went to Paris with him. I know what you were doing in our bedroom on our bed. I know everything. How can you say such things? It's not true. Liar. You're a goddamn liar. I have videotapes of the two of you in our house before you left. Remember the security system that asshole installed without my permission? He thought it didn't work. He was wrong. It recorded everything you two said and did in every room on clear, high-definition video. I've been watching you, Chelsea. I've seen everything, and there's no going back. Chelsea sobbed in shock at the sudden revelation. I'm so sorry, Paul. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to fall in love with Pierre. I swear I didn't. It just happened. He's you, but so much better than you in every way. And as much as I love you, how could I not fall in love with him? What about the children? Have you given even a passing thought to what will happen to them as a result of all this? Pierre is uncomfortable around children. I tried unsuccessfully to persuade him to accept them. He said you would take good care of them. I don't know how to tell you, Paul, but I'm taking a vacation for the sake of our marriage. Pierre has a few scenes to play in a movie he's making, and then he and I will travel the world while you chill out. I promise I'll be home before you know it. There is no home to return to. Our house, the one he was paying the mortgage on, burned to the ground along with his gorgeous blue sports car. They're both completely destroyed. Insurance won't cover the loss, so all his personal belongings and photos are gone. Make new memories with him, Chelsea, because all your old ones are burned. Did you say our house burned down? And that beautiful car? Why doesn't insurance cover it? I don't understand, Paul. What's going on? You know, Chelsea, what I find interesting about your first comment after news like this? You didn't ask if any of our children died in the fire or if I was seriously hurt trying to save them. How telling. No. Was anyone hurt? I assumed you'd start with that if anyone was hurt. No one got hurt. The only thing that died in that fire was our marriage. It was cremated. Let me know if you plan to return to the States anytime soon, and I'll arrange to have the divorce papers served to you at the airport. Oh, there's no way Pierre is going to let you divorce me, Paul. You have to get that thought out of your head. This is only a temporary relationship. You have to realize that. Pierre won't keep me forever. But I plan to stay with him as long as he'll let me. He also told me that you had intimacy with Helena. If he said that, then he lied to you, Chelsea. Helena and I never had intimacy. If he says otherwise, ask to see proof. There isn't any. He's a thief and a liar. Hold on to this man, Chelsea. He's a true gem. Pierre has no say in our marriage, and neither do you. Tomorrow, I'm filing for termination of parental rights and full custody of the children. Have a nice life, Chelsea. The kids and I can get along just fine without you. You don't have a husband. You don't have kids. And I don't have a brother. You can slut around with whomever you want as you see fit. Don't call here again, Chelsea, ever. It's over between us. I hung up the phone and turned it off. I made a mental note to have my phone number changed. Next chapter. I assumed that once the fuss started in France, my asshole twin would urgently try to contact Helena to deal with the fallout. Surely her unavailability would infuriate him, I reasoned that in a day or two he might send Gerald or enlist the services of others on his behalf, or maybe he'd come back himself to straighten things out. No one could reach me on my private phone, as I had changed my number early Monday morning after leaving for work. But that didn't stop Pierre from calling me at work. I was told I had an emergency call. "Paul, my brother, what have you done? You must renounce? Repent before it's too late," Pierre pleaded. "I am very sorry, Monsieur Dumont. I am afraid I cannot do it." "But why? You burned down your home, destroyed your family, are trying to destroy my reputation? And for what? For a piece of ass? I paid you well for it. You should be grateful, not trying to destroy me." "I'm sure to you, Mr. Dumont. She's nothing but a piece of ass, a whore, a slut. But she was everything to me, and you destroyed my everything. I'm just returning the favor." "You're a dreamer, and that's all you'll always be, a loser, Paul. Nothing else." "Thank you for the kind words, Mr. Dumont. If that's all, it's time for me to get back to work. Please don't call me here again or I'll block you. Gone are the days when you could treat people like crap and expect loyalty in return. Have a good day, Mr. Dumont." And I hung up. Then I asked that the company switchboard not take any more of his calls. When I had a few spare minutes, I searched the internet on my phone or computer for reports of the aftermath of my press conference. Apparently, a video of blurred body parts had made its way to Instagram and other social media. At first, Pierre denied it was him. He claimed I was impersonating him, but his French accent and voice were unmistakable. Also, before this incident, there were many paparazzi shots of him and Chelsea together in clubs in a casual setting. Now they were published in a new light as corroboration of my story. Entertainment journalists tried to interview her, shouting questions about why she was cheating on her husband and abandoning her children in the States. Pierre ordered her to ignore them and was angry that social media was working so hard against him, even though it had been in his back pocket for years. Although he had already starred in the movie, the producers informed him that he would be replaced by someone less scandalous. Even though he had time to travel as Chelsea had planned, they were hounded by the press every time they tried to go somewhere. Now, the famous French TV star had turned into a disgusting predator. Soon, other victims of Pierre's depravity began to appear and tell their stories, almost identical to mine. They became so numerous that Pierre felt as if he were being eaten alive by piranhas in a fit of rabies. In just 2 weeks, all of his talent contracts had been suspended pending further investigation. He was still getting paid, but nothing new was coming in, and instead of asking for an autograph, people were spitting on him. It was his ultimate nightmare and humiliation. It amazed him that my voice, just one voice, could bring him down from his exalted position. Finally, Pierre had had enough. His PR people were unable to resuscitate his former image. It became clear that he had become a pariah in the industry, and it would be a long time before he would ever work in the entertainment industry again, if ever. Tormented, he was forced to replace Helena, as he could not find or contact her by any means. He knew I had something to do with her sudden disappearance. He wanted to hurt me far more than I had hurt him. Pierre sent his negotiators and dealmakers to New Directions, Inc., the occupational therapy company where I worked. They met secretly with the board of directors and agreed to sell the business to Pierre Dumont through a shell company for $20 million. This left the 4 partners of New Directions, Inc. with $5 million each. The only priority changes were my immediate dismissal and the appointment of a new CEO, Brad Preston, to represent Pierre. I was verbally informed that due to downsizing due to the sale of the company, my position was being eliminated. Greg said he hated like hell to let me go, but the terms of the sale were clear. Otherwise, he would have to forfeit his share of the proceeds. Of course, no one except Brad Preston even realized that Pierre was the owner of the investment. Brad was given very specific instructions on how to fulfill Pierre's wishes. He ordered the switchboard workers to transfer all calls concerning Paul Blaylock directly to his office phone, without offering the caller any comment about Mr. Blaylock. Failure to comply with this order could have cost them their jobs. Second, because he had access to all company files, Brad pulled my personnel file and made an entry in my permanent employment record that I had had inappropriate contact with several female patients, although none of them were named. It was a lie, of course, but it was a vicious attempt by Pierre to destroy my reputation in retaliation. No one but Brad and Pierre knew that my employment history had been forged, and since no one saw him do it, Brad could not be legally identified as the perpetrator of the false information. Brad's second task was to find Helena at every opportunity. Since Pierre believed she was in cahoots with me, Brad was secretly following me, hoping to catch me in a meeting with Helena. Brad was a thug who had no experience other than taking orders for money. It was the easiest money he had ever made. Pierre's next step was to hire a hacker. Gerald had a friend who knew a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend. This guy was good. He was being paid serious money to find all my financial assets and redistribute them offshore where neither I nor anyone else I could hire could discover them. It was child's play for him. Every penny I had to my name was suddenly gone. My bank accounts were emptied and closed. My 401k was gone. My investment portfolio was sold, and the proceeds disappeared. All assets in my name were destroyed, but none of my accounts were touched. I was now faced with paying all my monthly bills with no source of income. At the same time, Pierre was finally tired of dealing with Chelsea. She was now a big negative in his social life. Any encounters with her always ended badly. He would half-whisper apologize to her, telling her that things didn't work out the way they expected, and it was all her husband's fault. He would put her on a plane and send her back to the States. The only upside for her was that she would be able to keep the gifts he had given her. When she returned to her hometown, she immediately sought me out. Pierre gave her my new address. She rang the doorbell. "Hello, Paul. I'm glad to see you. May I come in?" Chelsea asked hopefully. Chelsea asked hopefully. Chelsea asked hopefully. I stepped out onto the small concrete pad set aside as a porch and closed the door behind me. "What are you doing here, Chelsea? You've been gone for over 3 months. Did that asshole you ran off with get tired of entertaining you? Please, Paul. I don't want to fight. I want to see my kids. And if there's any chance you can forgive me, I'd like us to resume our marriage. Give me a chance to make things right, please." "This isn't a good time to see your kids, Chelsea. You should have called ahead of time so we could have worked something out. But as far as you and I staying married, I'll be blunt. That ship has already sailed. I filed for divorce because I was dumped shortly after you left the country. I will never stay married to you. Why would you even try? Paul, I believed I needed all the trappings of celebrity, wealth, and prestige, and I thought I'd have to choose between you and that kind of life. But it turns out that without you, none of that matters in the slightest," she said shrewdly. "You know what they say about looking back, Chelsea. It's always 20/20ths. You betrayed me and our marriage. You did it without a word in our own home and bedroom. You told me you were taking a vacation and abandoned our kids to stay with that jerk in France for a quarter of the year. Actions have consequences, Chelsea, and your actions cost you your home, your marriage, and your children as far as I'm concerned. If the court orders me to allow you visitation, I'll comply. But until that happens, you need to leave here and never come back." "Can't I stay here with you and the children? I'll cook, clean, etc.," she offered. "We don't need you anymore, Chelsea. I don't need you or the kids anymore." She hesitated and snorted, but then continued. "I'm pregnant, Paul. You're going to be a father again. There's no way I can be the father of your child. You've been out of the country for the last 3 months. How do you think you can pin this on me?" "A DNA test, honey. It will show that you're the father of our child." "No, it won't. It will show that asshole Dumont is the father because I can prove that you and I haven't spoken since you left the country. You can't abandon your child, Paul, and you know it. Not even on the slightest possibility that he could be yours. Can't I stay with you and our children?" "No, you can't stay here. What's the matter with you? Didn't you hear what I said?" "But where will I go? How will I live?" she begged. "Our house is ruined." "That's not for me to decide, Chelsea. You could try going to your parents. They're still here as far as I know. If you don't have a phone, I can call them to come and get you. There's nothing here that's yours. Nothing. Whatever you decide to do with the rest of your life, I won't be in it. But I have your clothes and the things we packed for you in France. It's all here," she suggested. "Burn them, sell them, give them away if you like. You have not one thing I can claim. If you leave anything here on the porch that belonged to me, I'll just throw it in the public trash can to save time for both of us. Just go away, Chelsea." She sobbed and shook like a leaf as all my words cut her like a knife. I quietly hid in my apartment. Her parents showed up 20 minutes later and picked her up. I didn't bother to tell her I was unemployed. I didn't want to give her an excuse to use me against me. All my friends and relatives were shocked at my plight. I had burned down my house along with my expensive car, lost my job, and recently found out that all my financial accounts had been hacked, leaving me practically penniless. The next day, I received an official notice from the medical board stating that I was being investigated for inappropriate behavior at my former place of employment. The result of the investigation could lead to the revocation of my professional credentials. I may have to change careers. I could not have imagined a worse dilemma. I knew Pierre must be behind all this, but I couldn't prove it. And even if I could, it wouldn't change the outcome. It seemed to me that Pierre was having the last laugh. Looking back, I wondered if I would have acted differently knowing what I knew now. I came to the conclusion that the only difference would have been to close the accounts and hide the money to stay afloat. During these difficult times, it seemed like all of my monthly bills and expenses came crashing down on me all at once. I contacted my bank, and after much negotiation, I learned that their position was that I had moved all my money elsewhere myself. Until I proved otherwise, they would not return the funds I had allegedly lost. I had no idea what to do. I knew that my parents didn't have room for all of us to move in with them, and financially, they weren't in a position to suddenly support 4 more mouths on their social security. I might be able to stay with my sister for a while, but I didn't want to risk ruining our relationship. I went to promising interviews at 4 different places, but at each one I got calls back saying I wasn't right for the position. Why was my life going to hell? Chelsea pawned most of the jewelry Pierre had given her to use an attorney. He was to represent her in the divorce case, or rather the possible avoidance of a divorce, but more importantly to secure her visitation rights to her children as a mother. The attorney demanded a $9,000 bond out of the $10,000 she had received and served me with a summons to appear in 3 days for an arbitration hearing to see if an amicable agreement could be reached on child custody issues before resorting to a judge's decision. I didn't want to find out anything with her, but I have to abide by the rule of law. The meeting went as expected. The arbitrator was an attorney with experience in this type of negotiation. Of course, Chelsea wanted full custody, and so did I. We were on opposite ends of the spectrum. She was very nervous and fussy. The arbitrator didn't care that she had abandoned her family because of her affair with my brother. It mattered to me. We couldn't agree on any of the issues, so another hearing was scheduled 2 weeks later to give us both time to think again about what was in the best interest of the children. A week later, I received a call from the local jail. When I agreed to take the call, to my surprise, Chelsea answered the phone. "I'm sorry, Paul, to call you so unexpectedly, but I had no one else to turn to. I didn't have your new number, so the police used their resources to call you and then put me through. I only have 2 minutes to call you. Can you come to the police station right now and talk to me? I wouldn't ask if it wasn't very important, Paul. Please. I don't have anyone else. I have nothing else, please. You must help me," she wailed. I took a deep breath and wondered what machinations she was up to this time. However, she was crying and begging in earnest. "Let me call Anita to come and watch the kids, and I'll see what I can do," I replied. When I finally arrived at the station and arranged to meet in person, I was met by a very shaky and devastated Chelsea. We both picked up the receivers on our side of the glass. "You look terrible, Chelsea. What's wrong? What's going on?" "Thank you so much for coming, Paul. Your kindness is one of the many things I've always liked about you." "Why are you here? Why were you arrested?" "Paul, I didn't want you to find out. I was hoping to get rid of him before he got rid of me. Looks like I lost." "Lost what, Chelsea?" "When you finally talked to me on the phone just before all hell broke loose after your press conference, I lost my head. You were right all along. Pierre is an asshole, but I was blinded by his wealth, celebrity, and status. But when you told me I had no husband, no home, no children, it drove me crazy. Pierre gave me large doses of Xanax to calm my nerves and help me cope with emotions that were running high. Soon, he added oxycodone pills and weaned me off the Xanax. I swallowed the oxycodone pills like candy. They numbed my mind and gave me a sense of euphoria, but when I got off the high, I needed more to stay stable. Over time, I had to gradually increase my oxycodone dose to keep my nerves in stability." She continued, "After about 6 weeks, I became completely addicted. I was shaking if I didn't take my pills. He sent me home with a week's supply of pills. I pawned the jewelry he gave me for pennies to pay my lawyer's fees. When my supply of pills ran out, I became desperate. Eventually, I found a source for the medication I needed, but I didn't have the money to pay for it. I am ashamed to admit that in return, I had fun with him and his friends. Tonight, I was caught engaging in prostitution and brought here. Since this is my first offense, bail was set at $250, but I am broke. I can't call my parents to bail me out because if I do, they will kick me out of the house and I will end up on the streets and homeless. Please don't let this happen to the mother of your children, she said almost unintelligibly between sobs. As much as I hated everything she'd said and done over the past 3 or 4 months, I still hadn't given up on compassion. The only problem was that I didn't have any money either. I couldn't even feed my children. How could I help her? Chelsea, I'm just as penniless as you are. Pierre fired me and a hacker stole all my financial assets. The only way I can raise $250 is to take out a loan against my car. You have to give me a couple days to do it, but I won't do it unless you agree right here and now to take primary custody of the kids and visit them every other weekend. Either you agree or I'm leaving. Every other weekend? Can't you offer me better terms? Whatever you say. Good luck, Chelsea. And I started to get up to leave. Okay, once every 2 weeks I'll take it, I swear. I won't renege on my word this time. I breathed a sigh of relief. Okay, Chelsea, call your parents and tell them you might not be home for a couple days while I figure something out. I will, Paul. Thank you. I still love you. You know that. I didn't say anything in response, got up and walked out of the prison. As bad as I felt, I had just met someone who was even worse off than I was. The next day, my parents took the kids camping at the beach for the holiday weekend. They wanted to give me time to regroup and rethink my life without having to take care of their needs for a few days, as well as shield them from Chelsea. I decided not to tell them about her plight just yet. I didn't want to start a conversation with the kids until all the details were settled. It was summer, and there was a big 4th of July celebration going on downtown that night. I went there hoping to see some friendly faces and maybe get a free hot dog. Yeah, it was that bad. There was a stage with a platform on which a local band was performing, entertaining the crowd that had gathered. There were about 2,000 people in the audience. I was about 200 feet away from the stage when two well-dressed, muscular men came out on it, took the microphone and started talking to the crowd. One of the men was holding an aluminum bat. Hello, everyone. Everybody having a good time tonight?" yelled one of the men into the microphone. Shouts and applause soon erupted from the crowd. "Sorry to interrupt the festivities, but we're looking for Paul Blaylock. Can anyone tell us where he is now? Someone said he might be here." A voice came from the crowd. "What do you want him for?" "We want to teach him a lesson for abusing his position as an occupational therapist and molesting many women inappropriately. One of them was my sister. Can anyone help us? We would be very grateful." The man with the bat looked around the crowd as his partner spoke. Suddenly he saw me from the stage and they began to approach me, probably to pull me away from the crowd. No one in the crowd said a word in my defense. I had a very bad feeling about how the evening was going to end. I froze in place and couldn't move. Two men were making their way through the crowd, heading quickly toward my seat. And then something unusual happened. No sooner had they approached me than an 8-year-old girl with a stroller suddenly squeezed between me and the two men, and all voices in the crowd went silent as the girl spoke. "Gentlemen, when I was recently in an accident and permanently disabled, Mr. Blaylock showed me more patience and kindness than anyone I've ever met in my entire life. He has helped me when no one else could, and he is the kindest man you could ever wish to meet. He's my friend, and if you want to get to him, you'll have to go through me first." A pin drop was heard in the crowd of 2,000 in the open air. Two men were about to sharply push it out of the way when a determined woman jumped out in front of them. "Boys, if you have the slightest desire to touch my daughter, let me correct your thinking. You will have to go through me to get to her, and I swear I will protect her with my life. You lift a finger in her direction, you'll get a knot in return." The man hurried through the crowd to get to the scene and found himself in the line of fire in front of the woman. "This is my wife and daughter, and if you so much as lay a finger on either of them, I will rain down such hellfire and damnation upon you as you have never seen before." The two men smirked as they looked at his boast. They knew they could easily massacre him, get the two women out of the way, and get their man. Suddenly, 5 muscular men stepped forward. One of them addressed the two would-be assailants. "This man is a building contractor and we all work for him. He's the best boss we've ever had. And we can assure you of one thing, boys. You'll never touch him as long as one of us is on our feet. The brave husbands were followed by 5 of their wives, and so on until the whole village stood up against the threats against this one man, thanks to the courage and admiration of one disabled 8-year-old girl who raised her one voice in the darkness against this defeated man whose whole world had changed for the better in those few moments. Greg stood beside the mayor near the stage and addressed him in a quiet voice. My name is Greg Dixon, and I work for New Directions, Inc. I hired Paul right out of college and have known him for years. I don't know who these two are, but I have never heard one complain about Paul from anyone, male or female. In fact, he has been praised by everyone he has worked with. No one, to my knowledge, has ever accused him of inappropriate behavior until tonight. He was unfairly fired from his job for no reason, and he has 3 dependent children. What is happening to a good man like him is wrong. The mayor nodded, walked to the stage, and took the microphone. Hello, everyone. I'm Grant Maston, your mayor. Everyone turned to face him. I'd like to ask a question. Has anyone here ever been abused by Paul Blaylock or been the victim of inappropriate behavior on his part? There was silence in the crowd. Let me rephrase the question. Does anyone here know of even one person who has ever been abused by Paul? Finally, one woman raised her hand. My mother fell and broke her hip last year. It took her a long time to get back to normal. Mr. Blaylock worked with her and me to help her recover. If you want my opinion, this man is a saint. Not only did he help us out of duty, but he never said or did anything inappropriate. Then one by one, people spoke and shared their inspiring stories about him, his kindness, and good work. The mayor interrupted the testimonies. That's exactly what I thought. This man is one of our own, and he was attacked by a vengeful rich man seeking revenge because this man dared to tell the truth when the rich man spoiled his wife and ruined his life. You have all no doubt heard these stories and rumors. We in this town, once I became mayor, take care of our own. I understand he was fired from his job for no reason. Perhaps it was just another fraud. Is there anyone here who is in a position to offer this man a job with good pay until he gets back on his feet? One by one, hands went up in the crowd. In less than 30 seconds, more than 100 hands were raised. Officers, the mayor continued, officers, detain these men until Mr. Blaylock is allowed to leave the city safely and in a timely manner. Also, take down their names and identification in case anything else happens to them. In addition, I believe the department should set up random patrols near Mr. Blaylock's home to assist in a quick response if necessary. Mr. Blaylock, in case you didn't know it before, as you can see, your city loves you. You're a good man. These gentlemen are not going anywhere until you get to your destination. Thank you for being such a good citizen. Tears were streaming down my face. I was overwhelmed with emotion as I absorbed all the kind words and comments expressing strong support. Until tonight, I had no idea that I was thought of so highly. I thanked everyone there for their kindness, and the crowd parted in front of me like the Red Sea as I walked out of the auditorium. I didn't feel like going back to my empty apartment, so I drove to a nearby lake, figuring it would give me a spectacular view of the fireworks, especially in the reflection of the water. I was a beggar, a broken, neglected man, sitting alone on the lakeside, crying out to the heavens about my plight. I was penniless, and although I had narrowly escaped a beating today, very soon I would be homeless and probably lose my children unless I received a serious offer of a well-paying job. As I sat there contemplating asking for money, something rubbed unpleasantly against my back as I sat on the coastal sand. Thinking it was a small rock, I picked it up, intending to throw it. But on closer inspection, it turned out not to be a rock at all. I had found what appeared to be a very expensive diamond solitaire. After finding the ring, I took it to the largest jewelry store in our city, which was open until 9 o'clock at night. When I inquired about its value, the manager instantly recognized it and disappeared into the back room for a few minutes to make a phone call, and soon returned. Today is your lucky day, my friend. A wealthy client ordered this customized ring for me. He has since decided to part with it for good. So, as he says, he who finds it, finds it. He paid us $250,000 to have it made. Its intrinsic value is about $175,000. At this point, the best I can offer you for this exquisite piece is $150,000. I'm afraid that is my maximum figure. I couldn't believe my luck. Agreed. How much cash do you have in the store right now? I asked. I don't know exactly, sir. I haven't checked. Give me a minute. After counting the cash register, he announced, just over $1,200, sir. Good. I'll take $1,200 cash and a check for $148,800. Deal? The jeweler smiled and replied, certainly, sir, and we shook hands. Leaving the jewelry store in high spirits, I drove straight to the jail, posted Chelsea's $250 bail, put her in a cab, and paid the fare to her parents' house. She thanked me profusely for being a good person. Next stop was the grocery store to restock the apartment's pantry and refrigerator. The pantry was completely empty. As I carried the first 2 bags from the car to the apartment, everything was suddenly plunged into darkness. Next chapter. In the hospital room, I sluggishly regained consciousness and a smiling angel appeared in front of me. I whispered hoarsely, "Did I really die and go to heaven?" "Paul, you're awake?" My eyes swiveled around in my head as I tried to focus. "Someone please get a doctor down here." I could hear her screaming at the top of her lungs. "I think he's coming around." The hospital doctor soon showed up and did a flurry of comprehensive checks, snapping his fingers, shining a flashlight in my eyes, and double-checking all the vitals. After 15 minutes, he seemed relieved. "I'm Dr. Houseman. You gave us quite a scare, Mr. Blaylock. How do you feel now?" "Like I've been run over by a dump truck," I replied. "My head is splitting." "That's understandable, Mr. Blaylock. You've been in a medically induced coma for 3 days now. We brought you out of the coma 4 hours ago. You sustained a severe head injury that resulted in brain swelling. Several specialists are working on getting you back under control." "What? But how?" I asked in bewilderment. "Your wife, Helena, is here. She will be able to better explain to you how you ended up here. She was on the scene when everything happened, so I'll leave those answers to her. I'm relieved that you're all right now, but you're not out of the woods yet. We'd like to keep you for a few more days to make sure the swelling stays under control." I realized my head was still foggy, but my wife? "Thank you, doctor," Helena remarked. "I'll be sure to let you know if there are any problems." The doctor nodded and withdrew. I raised my eyes to the beautiful angel hovering above me. The sight inspired my soul. Did I miss something? When did you become my wife? I should have told them you were my husband when you were brought in so they would allow me to enter your room when I could arrange my presence. And since I provided them with your health insurance information, they just took it on faith. Health insurance? But I don't have any health insurance. When I was laid off from my job, I was told that Cobra insurance payments would cost me $3,000 a month. I couldn't afford that with no income, so I dropped Cobra. I know, Paul. I suspected something like this might happen. I have a company I started years ago. It's a consulting company through which I did all the billing for services rendered to Pierre when I worked for him. Do you remember signing that document for me at the airport? I think so. Why? It was an employment contract confirming that you were a new consultant to my company, and therefore including you in my company's health insurance plan. It was in case something like that happened to you. Don't forget, I know Pierre well. And while I had hoped he wouldn't do this to you, it doesn't surprise me. I don't know what to say, Helena. You are an amazing and selfless woman. Honestly, I wish I had married you instead of Chelsea from the beginning. Unfortunately, I didn't know you then yet. When she smiled at me, her eyes moistened. My children, are they okay? Yes, Paul. Your mother, father, and sister have been in my care with me. They are well taken care of, rest assured. I'm here every spare minute, and when I'm not here, I'm at your apartment taking care of Amber, Neil, and Rhonda. They miss you but realize that you have been hurt and are in the hospital. Right now, you are probably wondering how you ended up here. There's a lot you don't know, and I'll try to answer your questions. But before I explain, I'd like you to watch this video, taken on my cell phone the night you were attacked. What I saw was a nighttime picture illuminated by the nearest streetlight. I was walking to my apartment with 2 bags of groceries when an unseen thug came up behind me and struck me hard with an aluminum baseball bat on the back of my head. I fell to the ground like a rag doll. 2 men came over and stood over me, smirking at their success. The man with the bat raised it again, as if about to finish me off with another blow to the head. A running blur appeared out of nowhere. The man deflected the bat during the swing, preventing it from hitting me in the head a second time. He quickly assumed a defensive posture in front of 2 men I recognized from 4th of July celebrations downtown. It was Gerald. What the hell? The man with the bat swung sharply at Gerald, who easily dodged the expected blow. As the bat swung in an arc, Gerald, defending himself, struck the man in the throat with the knuckles of his fist. The man dropped the bat, fell instantly, and grabbed his throat, squirming on the ground in obvious fear. Gerald briefly addressed the second man, but he made no sound. The second man suddenly raised his hands in submission. Gerald made a phone call, and the police arrived in less than 2 minutes. As the police approached, Gerald leaned over the victim for 10 seconds and then stood up. After that, the video clip ended. When did you and Gerald get here? Doesn't he still work for Pierre? Why was he protecting me? What happened to the tape? Why wasn't there audio attached to it? I'll try to bring you up to speed, Paul. Shortly after Pierre hired me, Gerald and I had an open relationship for a while. He knew that Pierre had used me from time to time to entertain other men, and he had dipped his wick into a woman more than once during the time we were dating. Although we stopped seeing each other after about 6 months, we remained very good friends and had each other's backs. I trusted him with my new prepaid cell phone number. Gerald called to inform me that Pierre had demanded that thugs be hired to beat you to death for defaming him. Gerald's conscience couldn't allow that, and he refused. So he left Pierre and came here to the States to protect me and you. I wrote to him that I would come to look after you, but he insisted on being here to protect me, and, by proxy, you first. He stands guard at the door of your hospital room every time I visit you. He is still there now. She continued. I deliberately turned off the recording on my cell phone. We needed to provide the police with the evidence I recorded that Gerald was acting in self-defense and protecting you from further harm, but at the same time exclude his conversation. After hitting the man with the bat, Gerald told the other guy with brass knuckles that his friend was dying, and there was nothing he could do about it. He threatened Mr. Castet with a similar fate unless he immediately agreed to confess to the police that he had arranged with Pierre to eliminate you, and was willing to testify in open court. Gerald informed him that prison was no hindrance to him and that his cronies inside would finish the job for him. It worked. He sang like a songbird. Convinced of his willingness to cooperate, Gerald took apart a Bic ink pen he happened to have in his shirt pocket, got down on his knees, made an incision with a penknife, inserted the pen's tube into the incision, and saved his life by performing an improvised tracheotomy. I was shaken to the core, slowly absorbing everything she was telling me. Why are you here, Helena? Why are you risking your safety for nothing? What about your Cayman lover? Helena gave me a smile that would have lit up the sky. If she had a pair of wings strapped to her back, I would have sworn she was a true angel. I'd never seen this side of her before. It's for a reason, Paul. And if you ask me to leave after my answer, I'll never open the door for you again. Henri Reynard is a man I became very close to in college. In fact, until recently, I would have called him my best real friend. He's handsome as day and every girl in school lusted after him, including me. But there was one problem. He's gay. What attracted me to him was his openness, purity of character, and love. Until recently, I had never seen anyone love as much as he did. When I asked if I could stay with him in Georgetown until things with Pierre were settled, he asked how soon I could come and promised me safety for as long as I needed it. He is a great friend. She continued. It was when I lived with him and his husband Franco that Henri explained to me what matters of the heart are. Love, true love, was something that had eluded me my whole life. When I was 7 years old, my parents put me through their bitter divorce. They both used me as a pawn in their hateful berating of each other. I was caught in the middle and felt responsible for their failure. This experience turned me against marriage and any belief that a happy life awaited me. I closed my heart to everyone but Henri, and only met him in college. I had many dates, don't get me wrong, but they were all just phone calls to me. I used men the same way they used me. There was no happiness or love in my life. Love to me was a parade of satisfied physical lust. I'm sorry you had such a terrible experience as a child, Helena. Your parents, who should have shielded you from the pain of that situation, used you as a weapon. It's not your fault. I know that now, Paul, but I didn't realize it then. The love between Henri and Franco was so palpable that I could almost touch it. I desperately wanted it in my life, but my heart was closed. I didn't know how to love. He tried to explain to me what love was, but I wasn't any good at it. I thought it was some kind of duty a couple owed to each other. He explained that love is a gift, not an obligation. I asked him how he realized he loved Franco. His answer surprised me. He said that love is invisible. But for him, Franco makes the invisible visible. When they look at each other, one look can convey the impossible. The concept was foreign to me until Franco came up with his idea. He rented the Blu-ray version of the movie musical Moulin Rouge. Of course, being French, I was very familiar with the history of the place, but oddly enough, I had never seen the movie with Nicole Kidman and Ewan McGregor playing the roles of Satine and Christian in it. They have a very nice home theater, and the three of us watched the movie that night. Franco said that if I didn't know what love was after seeing this movie, I had little hope. Paul, it was a life-changing experience for me. Yes, the plot of the movie was trite and hackneyed, but this movie radiated love from beginning to end. A quote from the movie that I will never forget is, "The greatest thing you will ever learn is to love and be loved in return." It was as if this movie was made solely to teach me what love is. By the end of the movie, I was sobbing my eyes out and my heart was completely immersed in the process. When they sang Come What May, I had never before heard a more perfect way to describe love than the words of that song. Those words made the invisible visible to me. I would sing that song to you right now, but I would burst into tears before I even finished half of it. Henry concluded his teaching with such a profound statement. He said, "Helena, you'll never know love unless you give yourself to it." Paul, my heart melted into a puddle right then and there because of that one all-consuming realization. Tears streamed down her face and she cried into a smile. Helena took my hand and, looking me straight in the eye, said, "I love you, Paul. I love you. I haven't said those words to anyone since I was 7 years old. Before you, no man in my life was worthy of them. When I first met you, I thought you looked just like Pierre. I knew how depraved he was, so I gave him what he wanted. As I said, I was well paid for it. I mistakenly thought your character matched his and thought of you the same way I thought of him. I was wrong. You're pure of heart. You live by the adage, do unto others. I've never met a man who puts others before his own needs. I've seen you with 3 angel children. I've seen you only ever be honorable to me. Paul, you make the invisible visible. Now I can see and feel the love emanating from every pore of your skin." Helena laid her head on my chest and cried with love. I was touched to the core again. No one, not even Chelsea, had ever expressed such love to me before. Suddenly I felt a warmth in my soul that I hadn't felt in far too long. The light of love shone again. I took her hand in mine and without hesitation said, "Helena, you are more than I could have hoped for, and far more than I deserve. When I divorce Chelsea, will you marry me?" She squeezed me so hard I thought my eyes were going to pop out. "Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes," she shouted. "I want you to understand that I won't share. You'll have to be exclusive with me for the rest of your life," I explained before kissing her. "Honey, I wouldn't want it any other way. I will be the only woman for the rest of my life. You'll never have any reason to doubt me. I won't let you out of my sight." When I was able to get home, Helena stayed with me to help only if I slept in my bed, and she slept on the couch. Gerald said goodbye and disappeared in an unknown direction. In addition to my thanks, I offered him some money for his services. He only said I couldn't afford it and smirked. At the next arbitration meeting, Chelsea kept her word, and together we signed papers spelling out all the terms of our custody agreement. The lawyer said he would get the judge's decision as soon as possible, and that was the end of the meeting. Encouraged, he scheduled another meeting in 2 weeks to settle our differences over the divorce. We left together, and I took her out for coffee to propose to her. When the coffee and donuts were served, I began. "How are you feeling after being in prison, Chelsea?" "I'm not going to lie. It hasn't been easy. I'm trying my hardest to resist my craving, but it's inexorably taking over. I still visit my dealer from time to time, but at this rate I'll probably be servicing it for a long time to come. What if I offered you a way out of Chelsea, a lifeline? Would you take it?" "That depends on what it would be and what it would cost me," she replied. "You and I are going to get divorced eventually anyway. Nothing's going to stop that from happening. But if you fight me, you'll only slow the process down and increase the costs for both of us. For that, I have a suggestion." "I'm listening," she seconded. "No Looking Back is a drug rehab center and halfway house on the outskirts of town. I checked it out, and it really is. They have a 4-month rehab program that costs 20 grand. The child custody issue has already been resolved. We have no financial assets to divide. If there were, I'd gladly give you half. I can send you to all of our former managers who will confirm that everything is gone. I believe Pierre is behind all of this. A kind man generously gifted me with jewelry that I turned into money, as you did with Pierre, to help me provide for my children and get by until I get back on my feet by finding another job. If you agree to sign the divorce papers without objection at our next arbitration, I'll sponsor you for the full 20 grand so you can get cleaned up and start a fresh new life. If you stay in the program all 4 months and get a positive report from them, I'll contribute another 10,000 in cash on the day you get out. That's the best I can offer you under the circumstances. What do you say? You're going to marry Helena, aren't you? If she agrees, yes. I thought so. Then there's no hope for me? For us either? I'm sorry, Chelsea, no. She was silent in thoughtfulness for a long moment. I watched in silence as her decision-making process unfolded before my eyes. On one condition, Paul. I'll agree to your proposal and give you the freedom to marry her on the terms you just laid out, if you give me one more thing before we part ways today. What is that? A kiss, she announced. Hold me and give me one last kiss as husband and wife. I need you to consummate our relationship. It will mean to me that we part amicably. I will never ask for anything else. But I want to feel the passion you once felt for me without holding back. If you can give me what I want, then I'll give you what you want. I looked into her eyes and saw in them a longing for me that I hadn't seen in her eyes in years. I pondered her request. I'm still married to her and I can't marry Helena until our divorce is finalized, which would speed things up considerably. I'll tell you what I'll do, Chelsea. To give you something to look forward to when your mind is clear and free, the day Helena and I pick you up from rehab to give you a $10,000 head start. I'm going to hug you right there and kiss you in a way we'll both remember for a long time. You have my word. Deal? She thought for a second, smiled, and said, Deal. We shrugged. I knew that when they accepted patients for rehab, part of the process was STD screening. I knew that once she completed the program, she would be completely clean and disease-free. I would be sure to tell Helena about my promise and the reason for it. She will never feel threatened by Chelsea. She signed the divorce papers as we agreed, and our divorce will be finalized in just under 8 more months. In North Carolina, divorce takes at least a year, and even longer if one party is fighting. I took Helena and the kids out to dinner to celebrate the signing of the divorce papers. Of course, we didn't tell the kids the reason, but Helena and I were excited. The next day, she and I went house hunting. Not to buy, but I wanted to rent a 4-bedroom house so she could have her own bedroom and get off that miserable couch. We moved in less than a week later. That same week, Chelsea made arrangements to be admitted to a rehab center. I drove her to the center and paid cash for the treatment. Friday afternoon, I drove back, dropping Chelsea off. During the drive, I called Chelsea's parents to let them know she was safely ensconced in rehab and asked if they wanted to keep their 3 grandchildren for the weekend. I was still on good terms with them, and they appreciated what I was doing to help Chelsea recover. They jumped at the opportunity. They said they would be there to pick them up in 45 minutes. I told them we'd pick them up Sunday afternoon. Helena cast a perplexed look at me in the empty house after the kids were taken away for the weekend. Honey, the divorce papers have already been signed. As far as I'm concerned, Chelsea and I are already divorced. Waiting for the papers is a mere formality. She bestowed a knowing smile on me. Well, about damn time. And she lunged at me, leaving a trail of scattered belongings behind her from the front door to the bedroom. 4 months later, I kept my word, and Helena and I pulled up to the no-looking-back rehab center. Helena was standing by the car holding a large envelope with $100 bills in it. I owe you an apology, Paul. There are some good therapists and counselors here. I learned a lot about myself, and I didn't like what I saw. You saved my life, and I will be grateful to you for the rest of my life. Helena, he is the best man I have ever known. Take care of him and be faithful to him, and he will love and honor you for the rest of his life. Learn from my mistake. Have you heard the saying, a tit in the hand is worth 2 in the bush? Paul is that tit in hand. Don't let him go for anything. Helena graciously hugged Chelsea and thanked her for her advice. We drove Chelsea to her parents' house and she explained that she was going to use the money we'd provided to get settled into an apartment. There was a secretarial job waiting for her at the rehab center, which she was scheduled to start the next day. She also told us that the baby would be a constant reminder of her failure and betrayal. She decided to give him up for adoption. As soon as the divorce decree hit the mailbox, Helena immediately started making plans for the future. We had a big wedding in France, in a big cathedral with an organ. I thought it was overkill, but it was Helena's first wedding, and she wanted the full wedding experience. Her mother had invited many noble and important people to the wedding who she worked with at the consulate. She was shocked that her previously aloof daughter had given herself so completely to one man, especially one like Pierre. She was happy for Helena, and they cried a lot as they recalled their difficult road to reconciliation. In France, a class action lawsuit was filed against Pierre Dumont by 20 plaintiffs, including me. He was also facing criminal penalties for assaulting me and attempted murder. Helena knew a legal eagle in Paris whom she trusted to handle Pierre's case on my behalf separately on the criminal charges. We were not required to attend the motions or the court hearings. The lawyer said that our dual presence would only add to the circus atmosphere. More than a year passed before the wheels of justice in France rendered their verdict. Pierre was found guilty for his part in the destruction of 20 marriages and ordered to pay 40 million euros in aggregate, 2 million euros for each of the 20 participants in the class action. As to the criminal charges, through the testimony of Mr. Brass Knuckles, Pierre was found guilty of conspiracy to assault and conspiracy to murder. Pierre was subsequently sentenced to 20 years in prison and ordered to pay me a further 10 million euros and to take full ownership of New Directions Occupational Therapist, a company he had acquired only to fire me. Helena's legal eagle turned out to be a shark. I was very pleased with the outcome of the case. The medical board notified me that the investigation found that I was clean as a whistle and that no action would be taken against me or my professional credentials. Although I no longer had to work, I still loved helping people, so I couldn't stay away. I became New Direction's favorite CEO and continued to treat everyone the way I wanted to be treated. After Helena and I built our dream home, I built a second home in the neighborhood and moved my parents into it, happily handing them a clean title with no mortgage. It was the best money I ever spent. Helena and I also paid college tuition for Anita and Darren's 2 children. Amber, Neil, and Rhonda had 2 half-brothers a year apart, adding to our family. True to her word, Helena was always there for me and never gave me a reason to question her loyalty. 5 years after rehab, Chelsea married one of the salesmen in her office. She never missed a date with her children. Helena and I didn't judge her for her presence in their lives. As far as we knew, Chelsea never insulted me in front of the kids, but rather, we were both kind to each other. When the time came, I walked Amber and Rhonda down the aisle at their weddings and was a very proud father. As I grew older year by year, I never forgot and remained grateful to that little 8-year-old girl in a wheelchair whose selfless act of kindness instantly changed my life for the better. I shudder to think how different my life would have been had she not had the courage to boldly stand between me and those men and raise her one voice.